1995. A road crew was building a highway outside Xi'an in central China. The bulldozer hit something that was not rock, not tree root, bone. Archaeologists opened a 7,300-year-old grave. Inside was a girl, 15 years old, 35 wounds, 18 bone implements still embedded in her skeleton. This is not war, not an accident. This is one of the oldest murder mysteries ever found in China. And there was more than one person who did this. Welcome to Mosaic Antiquity. Her name is the Lingkou Girl, or M21, a skeleton, a number, a story that has not finished for 7,300 years. Winter 1995. A road crew outside Xi'an hit something. They called the archaeology team. Grave M21, a single burial, Neolithic, the Yangshao culture. One of the earliest farming societies in China. Nothing special at first glance, a standard grave. Then they cleared the dirt. The skeleton was complete, except the left hand. Missing, cut off, cleanly, not torn, not chewed by animals, a deliberate removal, and the bones were out of place and the spine twisted, the ribs scattered. Like someone had thrown the body into the grave. The team sent her to the forensic lab for an autopsy. They needed to know what happened to this girl. The forensic examiners went silent. 35 injuries, 29 puncture wounds, 6 blunt force fractures, and 18 bone implements still embedded in the skeleton. Still in the positions where they entered. Fishing tools, arrowheads, hairpins, domestic objects, things used every day, things found in every home. Someone used things from the house to kill someone from the house. Then came the key discovery, the color boundary method. Each bone implement, the part buried inside her bone was lighter in color. The part exposed to air was darker. Over 7,300 years, the exposed surface oxidized. The buried part did not. This means she was alive when these went in. Her blood was still flowing, the wound was still open. The oxidation process started while she was breathing. She did not die first. She lived through every single wound. 7,300 years ago, when she was alive, she laughed. She was afraid. She felt pain. She had a name we will never know. 35 is not a number. It is 35 times someone decided to hurt her. And not one wound was immediately fatal. Not one wound struck a major blood vessel. Not one puncture reached a vital organ. Whoever did this either knew where to strike or got very unlucky again and again. Someone stood in front of her, stabbed, watched her react, did it again. And then someone else stepped forward. And someone else. Taking turns, not a frenzy. A ritual. A sentence. She died. But not quickly. She felt every single one. Now look at 3 details that make this case different from any other. First, 3 bone implements were driven through her pelvic cavity. From below, upward, they are still there. 7,300 years later. Second, her left hand was cut off. Not in a fight. No slash marks on the arm. No defensive wounds on the wrist. The hand was removed deliberately, as if the hand itself was the target. Could the hand have rotted away after burial? No. If the hand had decayed, the whole wrist would have come apart. The cut is too clean. This was deliberate removal. Third, every single wound is on the front of her body. Not one on her back. Not one on her arms raised in defense. She faced her attackers. She was not running when they struck. She watched every single person who hurt her. Someone did not want her to leave this world intact. 6 theories. The archaeologists have eliminated 5. The one that is left, not proven. But every clue points to it. War captive? No. Prisoners of war in the Neolithic were not given formal burials. They were left where they fell. And 18 weapons left in the body? Think about it. In the Stone Age, every tool took hours to shape. You do not leave 18 finished tools in a corpse unless leaving them there was the point. Religious sacrifice? No altar found, no offerings placed with her body, no ritual markings on the grave. Sacrifice leaves a pattern. This grave has none. Personal revenge? A crime of passion? One person cannot deliver 35 wounds from different angles with different weapons. The entry paths vary too much. The implement types vary too much. This was not one person in a rage. This was a group. Coordinated. Systematic. Ritual dismemberment, burial? Some Neolithic cultures removed body parts before burial. It explains the missing hand, but it does not explain 35 stab wounds while she was alive. And it does not explain the pelvic wounds. Ritual dismemberment was performed on the dead, not the living. Clan execution? This one fits most of the evidence, the group nature, the formal burial after death, the specific targeting. But it raises a question. Why the pelvic area? Why that specific target? 6 theories. 5 eliminated, 1 remains. It is not settled, but it is the most disturbing. DNA test. The result came back female, but the skeleton told a different story. The brow ridge is more prominent than typical for a female skull. Masculine. The pubic bone, inconclusive. Not clearly male, not clearly female. The forensic examiners studied the bones for months. Their hypothesis, she may have been intersex. A person born with physical characteristics that do not fit neatly into male or female categories. In modern medicine, this is understood. In the Neolithic, it had no name. 7,300 years ago. A tribe, a small community of farmers. Maybe 50 or 60 people. Everyone knew everyone. Someone appeared that they could not categorize, not a man, not a woman. They did not understand what this was, but they knew it was wrong. 3 weapons through the pelvic cavity. Not random placement, targeted, perhaps aimed at what made her different. They did not kill an enemy, they did not kill a sacrifice. They killed what they believed was a mistake, and they did it together. The entire community. No one person carried the guilt alone. Ötzi the Iceman, 5,300 years ago, found frozen in the Alps, killed by an arrow shot from behind. One attacker, one motive. We will never know what it was. The Lingkou Girl, 7,300 years ago, found in a grave outside Xi'an, killed by dozens of people in front of her face with weapons from every household. Ötzi was killed by one person, an arrow from behind, a murder. The Lingkou Girl was killed by dozens of people in front of her face for who she was, an execution. That is what Neolithic justice looked like. Not a court, not a judge. A whole community agreeing on one thing. This person does not belong. The 18 bone implements are still there, still in her skeleton. 7,300 years, not moved. The left hand, still missing, never found. The excavators searched the surrounding soil, sifted every grain, nothing. We will never know what happened that day. The exact sequence, the words spoken, the moment she realized what was about to happen. But those bone implements are still there, still in the positions where they entered her body 7,300 years ago. Not weapons anymore. Evidence. 7,300 years. She is still waiting for an answer, and so are we. Next time, 46 young women buried in a single pit 2,500 years ago. No clothes, no names. And green crystals blooming from their bones. What happened to them? Subscribe to Mosaic Antiquity and we'll see you there.